Hey you guys, Vitaly with AFT Dispatch here in American Freight Trucking. As promised in the last video that I made just today, actually, as you can see, the clothes haven't changed. The hair is just as bad. I wanted to look through basically the five regulations to watch for in 2019. This is coming out right from the 2019 Spot Freight Market Roadmap published by DAT themselves, and it's some really good stuff. So I'll just kind of read through this stuff for you. Maybe it's just a little bit easier to digest, right? So number one on the list is going to be AOBRDs. Those of you familiar, everybody's on ELD or AOBRD. Well, AOBRDs are going to have to switch, right? So it basically says that trucks using AOBRDs, which stands for Automatic Onboard Recording Devices, they were previously exempt, or that were previously exempt, or were allowed to be used instead of ELDs. There's some perks, or some companies prefer to use AOBRDs over ELDs, although ELDs have a much stronger feature set. And I won't get into the differences there, but basically they're required to switch these from AOBRD to ELD as of by December 16th of this year, 2019. So by the end of the year, we have to all switch. The entire industry is going to have to be on ELD and not AOBRD, right? Number two is the HOS reform. So HOS for hours of service, right? There's going to be this has been reformed. That's where ELDs came in. There's been some changes in terms of how to consider rest time and what's basically okay and what's not okay, right? So the FMCSA. It says that they hosted a listening session back in March of 2018, last year, to hear directly from drivers about HOS rules. And in August, the agency asked for input on changes on rest breaks and split sleeper berth rules, things like that. And proposed rulemaking regarding those changes is expected in the coming months, so in 2019. So it should be coming around. Last time they did that, they had to actually reverse those rulings because oftentimes the people making these rules have never spent a day in a truck or a night in a sleeper berth. So yeah, there you go. Enough said. All right. So and then the number three is minimum wage, right? So some of you guys may be familiar. There was that lawsuit that recently closed with I believe it was Swift Trucking, right? Or I may be wrong. Maybe it was New Prime. No, I believe it was Swift Trucking. Anyways, just recently, there was a lawsuit regarding this. But basically, minimum wage number three on the list it says that several states have new minimum wage requirements this year. TSA legal counsel basically says that employers, and I quote, employers with operations in different states must take care to monitor these various state law requirements because carriers are often targeted with wage and hour lawsuits brought by drivers and other employees. So this is a little bit different than what we've seen in the recent lawsuit, but along the same lines, I believe it was Swift, and I'm sorry, Swift, if I have wrongly accused you. I will have to check my headlines and go through, but I do believe it was them. In any case, it's a little bit different, but along the same lines. In any case, number four is drug testing, right? So there are two driver drug testing regulations that could further shrink the already tight pool of eligible drivers. Full compliance with the Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse is required by January 2020, so next year. Also, the current transportation funding bill calls on the FMCSA to issue a rulemaking to permit hair follicle testing as an acceptable alternative to urine testing after the Department of Health and Human Services issued guidelines. Now, as some of you guys may know, it's a lot tougher to hide drugs in hair follicle testing, but it is usually more expensive and but a lot more foolproof, right? So in a number five California laws, the state Supreme Court set criteria that define whether a leased on owner operator is an independent contractor or employee. Plus, FMCSA announced that carriers are exempt from state's meal and rest break requirements. As you may have seen on the news lately, there have been a lot of protests, not just lately, but over the last several years in California, especially in the ports. And as far as designation of whether somebody's a W-2 or a 1099 contractor, so a lot of companies have taken advantage of that in some ways that was not necessarily the nicest way of approaching things. In any case, guys, I don't want to make this too long. I do appreciate you guys. Hopefully this has been helpful. And again, this is DAT's 2019 spot freight market or spot freight roadmap. Again, published by the DAT or DAT. That's right. So a lot of people call it DATs or DAT. And enough said. Anyway, no need to make this any longer. Appreciate you guys. Take care.